crazy day in the last 12 hours, huh?
Well, I see red candles, so apparently I don't know what happened or what has been happening.
People are assuming that it's value moving over to the new Trump token.
Yes. Okay, I did see that in the chat. Oh, good. I mean, in a sense. Well, I always think about, like, and I learned this from Richard Hart, or maybe the Hex Community, one or the other. I learned about, shaking out the weak hands and how powerful that is. So I have to assume that's what's happening. It's a bummer that they're extracting value from our system and taking it over there. Well, honestly, hopefully they crush it and bring it back. I mean, if that, what did you say?
I said that'd be cool.
Yes. That would be cool. I haven't even, I kind of tried to find the chart for that token. But I didn't. I was like, forget it. That's not where my mind needs to be right now.
Yeah, when I saw that last night, I literally was just like, I cannot believe the world I live in sometimes that the president of the United States literally just launched a meme coin.
Yeah. Well, that's where he's starting. Maybe if he doesn't already have plans, maybe he will do something a little more with more utility. Who knows? Maybe this is his way of getting his feet wet and figuring it out. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely just beyond interesting. I personally can't even believe it, but here we go.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's going to draw a lot of attention to crypto, DeFi.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what a great way to start the year. Let's draw by the president of the United States drawing the whole world's attention to crypto. Whoa. I imagine it's on the news. Like the, CNN, NBC, CBS, all that. I imagine that it's going to make the news, and that will be good. And we will be here waiting for those people that discover crypto, the highest appreciating asset in history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely interesting. It's like at a $25 billion market cap.
Did you say that the Trump token is $25 billion market cap right now?
I believe so, yeah. I haven't looked, just what I've been told and read.
And when did it launch?
12 hours ago.
Oh. Yeah, that's a head scratcher.
Yeah, the FDV of the Trump token is 27 billion right now. Pretty wild. It looks like 80 or 90% of the tokens are locked up with a 3-month split. So, will be interesting to see if it's truly backed by Trump. There hasn't been any counter argument yet for it. The volume is crazy. And I think your guys' assumption of it's pulling liquidity out of other assets is true. Why do I believe that? Well, there's red across all the varied altcoins. Solana is the one large cap that is pumping now, which means people are selling altcoins for Solana, swapping Solana for Trump, which is the largest liquidity pool. And that thing is, massive bloated valuations. So pretty insane. I'm one of those poor fools who I saw the tweet within 7 minutes when it was below $1, and I was just like, this can't be real. I didn't throw anything at it. I'm like, I can't get involved with that. And, now it's $28, $27. So pretty crazy world we live in. And you mentioning, what part of the simulation is this? What world do I live in that the president is buying or creating a meme coin? I literally made that post in my private group last night. Like, what part of the simulation is this if this is real? As it just kept producing 15-minute green candle after 15-minute green candle. Pretty wild to see how it all plays out. The hope is that, like you said, the people who did liquidate altcoins or move from PulseChain or whatever to go over there, hopefully the profits get spread out amongst the many. Because if it is spread out amongst a few or ends up being a scam or a rug pull or sells off quickly, not all that money is going to find its way back into those same alts or back into the market, and the liquidity will be going in and out of the market for forever, which is never a good thing for the community as a whole.
I agree. But like I just said, it's going to draw attention to crypto space. And I have never said this on my channel or in spaces or anything, but I've done a bit of traveling around the United States, and just dude, there is a bucket ton of money in this country. I mean, PulseChain, what PulseChain holds its entire market cap is not even at the tip of the iceberg of the money that's out there that could potentially come into crypto. You know, that's not even including everybody's extra vehicle and extra this and that they can sell and get themselves a small bag of whatever token they want. There's a bucket ton of money in this country and in the world too. So I say that because I think that money can be replaced.
Yeah, I agree with you. It will be on the news. There'll be a lot of eyes on it, especially if it ends up being real. There's Richard Hart was kind of the king of, no marketing or no exposure is bad exposure. You'll have the CNNs and the NBCs hating on it, calling Trump a scam, a grifter, blah, blah, blah. But it's still promotion for crypto. Still promotion for Trump, who is the most pro-crypto Bitcoin president ever in history, and along with all the people that surround him. So could still be a net positive. I just hope that the retail who is rotating into it takes some profits and finds its way back into these other chains, these other altcoins, etc. Right now, the only beneficiaries are Trump and Solana.
Sure. Well, we have been preparing for the bull run and doing everything that we know to do, and we are executing. We're doing it like this space, and when they come, there are resources for them to learn about the Gray's currencies and PulseChain. So I'm excited about that. What else, guys?
Ethereum down today, Banana.
I'm sorry, what was that?
What is Bitcoin and Ethereum down today, or what are?
Sure, Bitcoin is at 103.5. Ethereum is at 33.
Yeah, so Bitcoin essentially flat, Ethereum down 5.15% or so. A lot of other altcoins down somewhere between 3 to 8%. And then a lot of Solana meme coins are down somewhere between 10 to 30%, as that's the easiest liquidity to rotate over into Sol and then grow.
Yeah, definitely. If you're looking to chase it and you had some already Solana plays, that would be the easiest move. Just sell whatever play you had over there.
I had an interesting experience this morning. I was invited. One of the guys in the community is in Germany, and he's like, and we become friends. And this is, I know it's off topic, but we make relationships in crypto. And he's like, hey man, if you're ever in Germany, I gotta be careful what I'm saying here. Well, his wife works at a certain car manufacturer facility, and he's like, if you're ever here, we'll take you on a personal tour. I'm like, yeah, man, I would love that. I've actually had an eye on one of their car models, actually. So that was fun this morning. Way off topic, but
that's cool though.
It is.
You left out an important part of the story though.
What part of the story was that? How I was going to get there?
No, I want to know what car you have your eye on.
Well, two. Like if I was going to buy like an exotic car, like something that I would want for me and my wife, because we're now empty nesters. I love I love the Corvette with the mid-engine. To me, it looks like it could be almost be like a Lamborghini. It just looks that sharp. And I've always been a fan of the Corvette, but that mid-engine one, whoa! Now I don't care for the older models. I like that mid-engine one. And then that Porsche, there's a Porsche sedan that I've had my eye on for a while. I've never looked into them. I don't know what they cost. I don't even know what the model name, but it just looks like a snappy looking get around town kind of car. Maybe you guys know what I'm talking about. I think it's a two-door. You can probably get it in a four-door, but it's Porsche. Oh, by the way, it's Porsche, not Porsche. It's Porsche. That is the proper pronunciation. What about you, man? What kind of minivan are you looking to buy? Hey, Zen? What's You're breaking up, man. You're probably upset.
Bike is one of those camping Sprinter vans.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
With have like the livable space in the back. I'm gonna need the 4-seater instead of a 2-seater though, and those are pretty hard to find actually.
Money can find them. You can find them.
Yeah, you can get them custom made and everything like that. I was hoping to find a used one, like slightly used.
Yeah,
I need a car to fit all my dogs and kids in.
Yeah. Yeah. If you get the used stuff, then a lot of the new smell, which is not healthful, a lot of that has had a chance to off gas, and then you can, not be breathing all that toxic fumes from the new plastics and all that. All right. Question. Because I know everybody's here for the greatest currencies, crypto. We try to keep it on topic, but there's value also in bringing in some kind of personal stuff. I know that because I listen to content, and it's kind of nice to hear, that kind of stuff also. But speaking in Panama, and I would like to know from you or the community, what topics should I key in on the grays? Like I want to illustrate, mainly I want to illustrate, in addition to the rest of my content, I want to illustrate where these tokens can go. So, and I'm going to use the Moon Math calculator. I'm going to extract some data out of that and show it on a screen, very, very crystal clear. But, give me some ideas about how we can illustrate the Grays currencies and the power of the Grays currencies. And I have a pen. I'm going to write these down if I don't have it already in my notes.
Yeah, I'll give you one. I would be interested to hear anyone else's opinion on this besides just mine. So if anyone wants to come up and add to this, whatever item of the Grays that you found was the most interesting, was the most drawing, what like captivated you, please just bring it up. But the one thing that I've found is very interesting, which hasn't played out yet, but I think it's going to be really, really huge when it starts to play out. Banana is the fact that we have like our own form of God will written in code, just constantly buying up and burning the tokens. And in the long term, what does that equal? Because, like, for an example, PulseX kind of has something similar, and I think that's, you know, one of the reasons I believe PulseX is going to be extremely successful is with every single transaction, there's technically a portion of that getting bought and then burned.
Yeah.
And I think it's around 48 million currently. And where PTGC is at, we're over 20 million of bought and burnt PTGC. But the thing is we're not half the size of PulseX. We're like a 50th of the size, right? So the fact that so much more value has been bought, or it's not more value, but ratio-wise, it's so much larger than PulseX. I think that's going to be very, very interesting. And what I believe is going to happen is as PulseChain gets adoption and there becomes more volume on chain, like what we see today, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 of bought and burnt PTGC and, you know, UFO as well. But like if that turns into, let's say, a 10x from here, $50,000 to $100,000 of bought and burnt PTGC every single day. When you start to like stack that on top of each other every single day for like this bull market and even the next bear market, I'm just very interested to see like what that actually turns out to be on a chart. And I know as our price goes higher, it will become harder and harder to buy and burn the supply. But the thing is that value is still getting injected into the system whatever price we're at. And I think some like forward-looking simulations on that would be very interesting.
Okay. I can do that. We're going to talk about what I want to do is I'm going to summarize the fee allocation because I have records. I'm going to summarize the fee allocation for probably December. I'll look at December and January, whichever looks the more juicy, probably December. I'm going to use that for an illustration of an entire month put together.
Yeah, like what I was just bringing up, if we got the buy and burn to $100,000 a day, you know, so on 365 days, if that stayed consistent, you know, that's $36 million.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things of our system that's going to really keep, like, that's really the reason why a lot of the reason our chart is just up and to the right is that has been happening already. And that's actually what made it possible for people to take profits, because tons of people have taken profits. We're up, you know, let's say 100x, right? If someone got in at 2 mil, it's 200 mil, it's 100x. And people have taken profits. Like, how are we able to keep paying out profits, but our chart still looks like really everyone's holding? Well, the truth is because we're generating value from outside sources. So when we pay people out profits, it's not actually only coming from the chart. It's just coming from revenue that we've garnered from outside places and paid them out accordingly. Like, even look at an employee, right? Like, if you had a business and there is an employee that wanted his paycheck, if your business made no money that month or that 2-week period, you have to kind of take it out of your backup money. You know, if there was not a lot of sales, or if a job went bad, or, you know, nothing was kind of getting bought off the shelf, you actually are having to tap into some of your capital that's on reserve. And I kind of look at like the value that's within our LPs, like the capital on reserve, that's value we've already made. But since we're generating value every single day, it's kind of similar to a business in that way. Is, you know, we're actually making new money to pay these people out when they do decide to collect their paycheck, if you want to kind of use that wordage. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you're not generating any value and you're just paying them out of a savings account that you have for backup, like, eventually that savings account runs dry if everyone keeps wanting their paycheck, if there's no value generated.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the same thing you kind of covered, so I won't go too hard on it. But that's what caught my eye all the way back when you guys first launched. Is back then a lot of utility projects were building in the bear and figuring out revenue sharing platforms for deflationary token metrics, including buybacks and burns and LP ads. And PTGC kind of did this without needing a real life business or real life customers due to the LP bonding in the AMM bots that were and are occurring on PulseChain. So it's kind of the theory I had for real world businesses applying to the token metrics, except, like I said, not relying on a business, but relying on the on-chain activity. So that's what got me excited for PTGC. That's what got me still holding PTGC, have some staked, have some locked, posting about it, getting it in the private Discord and onboarding people on the PulseChain, because I do believe it will continue to be one of the best performing assets. And if all of us here believe PulseChain is going to have some form of success, and if we're right with that, PTGC will be at the forefront to prosper from that as well.
Yeah, 100%, Nick. I couldn't agree more. That especially like right now, there's just a lot of meme token talk, which is good, because what I think everyone kind of realized is everyone was trying to come up with utilities and kind of businesses to bring outside revenue in. But what they actually came across is you still need to find a new person to use that utility. And they actually were like, well, if we have to find a new person to use that utility, we're actually in the exact same spot as we were. We might as well just create a meme token and just try to get that person just into the token, right? That's the thing about utilities. Like, if no one's using your product, no one's using that business, there's still no outside value being brought in, and you're in the exact same boat. And that's what I love about our system, is the utility isn't something that's for humans to interact with. It's just for the AMM bots to interact with, and it's mechanically driven and grown. So as we keep increasing our liquidity web, they now need to move more money, which then gives our product more utility.
Yeah, people have to understand that when you create a product, even if it's a Web3 product, it costs money and time to try to onboard users. And then some of these real world businesses that I got involved with, like glamping property and a jewelry company and stuff, and they're getting users and they're making money, and it's starting to flow into token holders and whatnot. But it costs a lot of money to run a real world business and be regulatory compliant and have taxes and have real world assets. And that's what people start to realize when they're trying to merge Web 2 and Web 3 together. It's not as easy as it sounds, and it takes more time, versus PTGC is just relying on the success of the PulseChain network and the growth of user base over on the network that will happen with any bull market in crypto.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up, is the overhead costs of a utility-based product. Even a lot of ecosystems out there have tons of overhead costs. Like, for an example, this is one thing that I don't know if a lot of people have thought about, that I love about PulseChain compared to Ethereum. RH is actually having Ethereum kind of do all the legwork, and this is my personal opinion. Someone can give me a counter argument, but he's having them do all the legwork because their foundation has so many employees to it. I don't even know how many employees there are. Maybe someone has that answer, but you could imagine the overhead costs that incurs. Well, RH has just a handful of devs compared to possibly 50, or it could be way more. I literally don't even know this number. So the fact of us kind of letting them keep pushing forward to get better and better and better, and then we can just pull whatever they create, whatever we like, over to PulseChain, and we can grow for fractions of the cost over here on PulseChain. And ultimately, people don't realize the way that the foundation of Ethereum is getting paid out is from Ethereum, right? Like, that's how they're paying their bills. So where I'm getting at was with PTGC and UFO, since they're just decentralized code on the blockchain, we have no overhead. We have utilities, but there's no actual business there to have to pay people, or like you said, that if you're dealing with real world things that you're trying to sell and make money that way, and you're just tokenizing it, there's obviously certain taxes involved with that and stuff like that too. So I think the fact that we have no middleman that we have to answer to, and it's just functioning on the blockchain 24/7, but still generating large lump sums of value using the blockchain, it's very unique.
Mm-hmm. What other news was there? Are there any newsworthy topics that happened this week that we should talk about?
I was just going to say it's interesting seeing, kind of Gary Gensler and Yellen and the DOJ head kind of all giving their last speeches and doing their walkout and getting their praise from all their coworkers because all of them were anti-crypto. And kind of the last looming thing on Bitcoin, in my opinion, was the DOJ was approved to sell the 69,000 Bitcoin. Everybody, speculated that they would have to sell it by the time the inauguration of Trump happened. But then some of the key members of the DOJ were kind of done. Their last day was yesterday. So maybe that's kind of the relief in the market that we're also seeing is people are now assuming that the DOJ isn't going to sell those. Trump will come into office, make that executive order to make a strategic reserve day one, and we kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think if we can prolong that for Trump, that would probably be in our best interest. One thing I think that was interesting this week, Banana, is that we had a lot of good positive price movement for a few days. Yep. I think it was green Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then maybe Friday was a little red, but we had a good run for a few days straight.
Since the 10th of January, we are up. Well, now we're up 87%, but we were up at the highest, if you count the wick, 120%. Yeah, it was a good week.
Yeah, one thing I kind of noticed that I feel kind of bad about is just previous to because we kind of did a nice 100% rise this week. I always feel bad when I see people kind of chasing something else with some good funds that they've actually made in PTGC, and then they go and chase something else, and it's like ultimately at our low for the time period. Like obviously we could go lower, but who knows? And they'll go and chase something, and then I look at that thing after we're up 100% and that thing's down like 70%, and I'm just like, gosh darn it, like we worked so hard to like create value over here in this system, and this person was along for the ride and then took that value and lost it.
Yes.
I just kind of want to remind people, like, I'm all for if people want to degen, but just be smart about what you're degenning with, right? You don't need to sell your, and I'm going to use this example, you don't need to sell your rental property and go and take it to the casino and put it on black, right? Like, if you're going to do that, just keep the rental property and scrape together whatever change you can to do that more high risk stuff. So if you do lose it, you didn't affect your passive income stream that's actually been known to do pretty good for you.
Yeah. We've seen it time and time again. People like to move. They try to make a gain somewhere on another token and then think they're going to come back and buy a bigger bag of the grays, and it doesn't always work out.
The truth is they usually don't come back and buy it. Even if they make it, they don't come back and buy a bigger bag of grays. They go and try to do it again, and then again, and then again, until usually one of them is a loss. And that's kind of what the game wants to suck you in. This is the game that, like, the casino wants to suck you in. If you don't realize crypto, I always call it the crypto casino. It's pretty similar to the real casino. Like, they're not worried if they paid you out, because they just want to keep you there, and then you're going to go and play it on another game or another table, and then eventually you lose it anyways, right? So it's all staying in-house. They're just giving you dopamine fixes temporarily.
Got it. Yep.
Do you want to, by chance, maybe just go over some of the stats for the last 24 hours, Banana, or where are we at in our agenda list?
We can definitely do some stats. You know, one thing that I wanted to look at is your experiment wallet.
Definitely.
So let me pull that up. Because I honestly haven't looked at it in probably since mid-December. Oh, I gotta find it. I really need to organize my bookmarks. And I'm on stream, so it makes it more difficult to find.
Yeah, I don't know if you've known this, but D-Bank got updated too, and now it shows what PLS you have pending in your farm as well, which is kind of cool.
Ah, cool. I do need to look at that. All right, I think
When you pull this up, you'll be able to see it.
Okay, good. Now I remember where that wallet is. Here we go. Okay, guys. Share the screen. Well, the value of the wallet is now $238,000. So you're getting there. The goal is to be $1 million within, what do you say, a year? I mean, that was the desire.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't even really have a timeline. I was just seeing how quick you could turn 30K into $1 million using the UFO farms.
Uh-huh.
The funny thing is, the UFO within that experiment is up. Gosh, what is it up? Probably 30x, at least 25x. But all the RH tickers are technically down since it was created. Okay. So the only reason this LP or this wallet is up is due to the UFO within the pairings tugging the balance of the wallet up. Actually, all the RH tickers are low. But I wanted to include the RH tickers in there for multiple reasons. One, because I wanted to utilize the farm, and I wanted to kind of pay attention to how much PLS I was receiving. And, you know, I want to see that the PLS I receive actually equates to the 30K that I've spent on it, which I think currently it's at like 5K. So I'm still a ways away on that side of it, but it's growing using the farm. And then on top of that, most people don't want to go like all in to UFO. They want to keep some of their RH tickers, right? So I was like, well, this is a good way for people to keep a good portion of their RH tickers. I literally have every RH ticker in there, so it's pretty diversified. And then on top of that, you know, the UFO associated as well. And what this actually is showing is UFO is the only thing that made this portfolio go up.
Yep, same with mine. And I see what you're talking about, the Pulse rewards at the bottom. And it even says right there, rewards in Pulse. And there's that wallet has earned $6,000 in Pulse rewards. And so it's 111 million Pulse. Nice.
Yeah, and Pulse is still, I think Pulse was at 0.0, like 4 zeros and a 7 when this wallet was created. So Pulse is still down from the creation of this wallet.
Sure. Yep. What else? We looked at your wallet, and then you had mentioned something else that we can look at. Oh, the stats for the week. And if you want to talk about that locking estimator that I made, that I screenshotted you the other day, I'm open to talking about that. But it's not, I haven't run it by you entirely, so it's fine if we skip it and save it for another time.
No, we can talk about it.
Okay, let's go through some stats first. Okay, I'm on the PTGC rewards estimator, which is on lookintoptgc.com. And I'm just gonna scroll over and hit the highlights. Ethereum's volume yesterday was $3 billion. PulseChain's volume was $22 million. We have 10,876 holders now. We've been averaging about 30 a day for 3 months. And I love that, man. I think that's stellar. 30.
Yeah, I can kind of feel, because what's nice when you get new users in, right, is those new users, once they learn the ecosystem, they might know someone that they want to get in also, right? Like a friend, a family member, an online buddy, whatever. So when I see the 30 new users a day, I'm like, wow, that's beyond awesome, because that's 30 new people that might tell a friend to get 30 new people in the following day. And RH talks about this a lot. He always, I think it's he always says it's like squared, right? Like every new person you get in, it's kind of squared, because they can tell, more people, and then those people can tell more people. So I feel like we're getting good traction, and we're getting to that point. And this kind of comes in waves, right? Like when your chart's doing good, like you can feel the new people coming in, and when the chart slows down, you can kind of feel it kind of stagnate out. But where I'm getting at is, it feels like I can feel the new buys coming in. I obviously look at them, like especially in our chat, because it says new next to it. So It just feels like in the last 3 months, we can feel these new buyers coming in.
Yeah. We crossed into the 11-to-1 territory this week. Today it's at 10.5. And I love this illustration, but and it took me a while to realize this. Everybody was saying it in the chat. I just didn't quite understand it, that holding PTGC is like holding more Pulse. We all love Pulse, the native token. We hope it does like what Ethereum did. But if a person had flipped their Pulse into PTGC on August 26th, when it went to 1-to-1, today you would have 10.5 times more Pulse, because you could literally flip your PTGC back into Pulse. A 10.5x on Pulse since August would be who wouldn't? We can't go back to August and do that. But it's an excellent illustration. I love that. I almost wish I had not paired some of my Pulse with UFO. I wish I perhaps just bought more UFO, but I'm leaving those pairs because they are making me Pulse every day. And I just, whenever I claim my rewards, then I'll flip them into the Gray's currencies. It costs today, 1 million PTGC costs $612. We burned 8 turtle positions yesterday, 6.4 squid positions the previous day. Which, okay. Just bear with me, guys, as I scan this. I really should put some stars on here. The total LP, PTGC and UFO LP total is $24 million. The fee revenue for yesterday was for PTGC was $20,000. For UFO, it was $14,000. So for a combined $33,440 of fee revenue in a 24-hour period. UFO's volume was $227,000. PTGC's was $396,000. And we didn't add any gray circles. We haven't for a few days. If you guys want to join the Gold Circle Space Force, go to secretobank.com/grays. Upload your profile, adjust it, download your new one, and put it on your socials. It's a snappy looking gold circle. And we haven't added any in the last 3 days. That's not market metrics, but that would help market metrics. That's pretty much it. I mean, let me review UFO real quick. I have obviously a lot of UFO stuff on the PTGC tab. We have basically 4,500 holders in UFO. We're adding about 30 a day. I think I'm looking at November. In November, we averaged 35 a day. For January, we averaged, give me a second here, 20 a day. But January's not over yet, but we're averaging 20. We went over a 1-to-1 ratio this week on the 14th. We're now at 1.17 or so. A million UFO costs $65. Yesterday, we burned 4 squid positions. The day before that, we burned 1 dolphin position. I'm scrolling over to see what else we can. Yep, that's it. That's it for the stats.
One thing I like about UFOs, since the price is still lower, even though the amount of dollar value every single day that's getting burnt is less than PTGC, it usually is buying and burning a greater percentage of the supply, which is cool.
Yeah. That is true. So there's the stats. Okay. We can let's also look at some stats on lookintoptgc.com. And you guys have access to this on the dashboard. Let me get this set up here. $400,000 in volume. We're 17x away from a penny. Has anybody figured out yet when we should reach a penny? I mean, last summer we talked about it being in March. I had just kind of done some napkin math and it looked like March. And then I did more napkin math in December and it was like still March. So if anybody can tell me, that would be awesome. Because I haven't done that. I need to redo the napkin math. 17x to a penny. We collected $19,000, or let me put it this way, $19,200 was distributed to burning PTGC, adding liquidity, sent to the Dow, and went to the holders and stakers. $20,000 in PTGC. Yay. And for UFO, $12,000. That's good cheese.
Yeah, I like to use value generated because I feel like that's value that we've generated from obviously buys and sells and then also from the AMM bots.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of that is technically in PTGC or UFO at that time. Some of it's in PLS, like the Dow, and then also the rewards paid out to LP providers for UFO.
Okay. Value generated. Yeah, there are so many terms that we can use to, make things look as they are, really. Help me with a thought. I had this thought, and you actually brought it up. I believe it was on Monday Spaces. But when we get into these fee-based tokens, the Grays currencies, we are not just getting a position, but we are actually building our position as we enter the system because we're paying a fee. We're sending we're sending value to the DAO, we're sending value to the holders and stakers. And on that, if I buy PTGC, do I earn reflections from that transaction? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would have to look into that. If you're earning from your own transaction, that really, more importantly, you're earning from everyone else's transactions after you enter in.
I would think that's probably the proper process. But I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
and that's what's important is like, you know, once you enter in, you now are earning your portion. If you never enter in, you never earn your portion. And obviously not everyone needs to enter in, right? Like this is a personal decision, but there is a cost to enter in, and that's what you kind of have to swallow. And I think that's the idea that a lot of people have put like this stigma on fee on transaction tokens because they don't want to pay to play. But when you kind of zoom out and you look into the real world, you pay to play with anything. You know what I mean? Like there isn't anything good out there that ultimately is given to users for free, you know, to an extent, right? Like a public park, I guess could be free, but really it's just the tax dollars paying for that public park to an extent, right? So you're paying for it in some way. It's just not right then. And the nice thing about this is once you enter in, there is that fee involved, but now you can actually access your portion of those forever. Some people aren't in the system long enough to access to get paid back, right? But maybe they make the gains and make that money back in a different way. But people who do stay in the system long probably earn their tokens back, and on top of that, the gains as well, right?
Yes. And my thought process on that was, you know, like if we buy a token like Bitcoin, for example, you know, yes, we made a green candle on the chart when we bought, but when we're buying the Grays currencies, we're doing more than just making a green candle on the chart. We're sending money to the DAO, which is going to use that money benevolently, and we're sending value to the holders and the stakers, and we're reducing the supply. So it's more than just it's like injecting into the system, but at a different level. You're like becoming not just a buy on the chart, but like invested in the system when you enter the Grays currencies.
Well, you're making the system more sustainable is what's important.
Yes.
So when you enter into Bitcoin, let's say you came in with $1 million. You went in, 2 weeks later, you went out. You didn't really make that system any more sustainable, right? But when a user enters into our system, when they decide to enter in, they're actually making the system more sustainable for the users that come after you, which actually then in turn helps bring people in after you, because you don't want to technically be the last person to ever buy. You want it to be an appetizing and awesome experience for users after you. So even if you enter in, you know, you're adding to the LP, you're adding to the buying bird, you're paying all the people who have been supporting the price before you. And now you're part of supporting the price at the same time. And then every user that comes in after you also has to add to that same system. They're adding to the LP, they're buying burning supplies, and they're paying the people who are supporting the system before them. And then the same goes the other direction, right? You sell, where in a normal situation, someone sells a huge amount, they don't actually help the system at all. They really only hurt the system because they now left, and then left nothing as a gift to the ecosystem. Well, our system kind of makes you leave a gift.
Yes.
You know, you're leaving the house, but you're saying, hey, sorry guys, I left. That sucks. You know, hey, I need this money for this or that, or I'm going to go do this or that. But here is $10,000. This is in my imaginary scenario.
Yeah.
This is a big player selling. Here's $10,000 to buy and burn your supply, add to your LP, and pay extra tokens. You guys get a portion of my tokens as just a little thank you. And we were kind of talking about this in the chat. Someone was talking about like, oh, we should have a referral system built
Yes.
And the kind of nice thing about these fee on transaction tokens is the referral system is written in the code.
Yes.
Every user that comes in and out actually gives you more of the tokens and makes your supply less and your LP more. So, yeah,
Yes.
like the direct referral system maybe would be cool because you could be the only one that gets that person. If you onboarded that person, you're the only one that gets it. Where this is spread out amongst everyone.
Oh yeah, man. These are good notes. I love it. We are a referral token. Oh, it's funny. It's true in a sense, you know.
Yeah, it's 100% true. It's just instead of them having to give back to just you, they have to kind of give back to everyone.
Yes. Our referral code is the contract address. You want my referral code? It ends in, what is it, CE or DE93. That's a good one. I love that. I'm glad you said that in the chat yesterday. I was like, oh, yeah, wish I'd figured that out. Well, let's talk about this locking estimator because I do want your input on it. I ran it by somebody else, and he's like, yeah, it looks correct. So are you looking at my screen? Perhaps. Are you looking at my, or are you just on your phone?
Yeah, I'm just on my phone.
Okay. So for the viewers on YouTube, green are like headings, orange are inputs. And this just helps the viewers understand what's going on here. And the blue are the outputs. And this should actually be orange. So I'm going to change it real quick. But what we have is what I was trying to figure out is I have locked tokens. What could my locked tokens create in value for me as the value of the locked tokens increases? So what I did is I have the total locked PTGC, which is 136 billion tokens. That's what's locked as of just the other day. And an estimated unlock, which you could put anything in there you want. I'm going to input a 1 million PTGC unlock. And this means somebody has a million tokens locked. They're going to emergency end lock and pay all the other lockers 30% because that's their penalty. And then the price at the time of this emergency end lock is, let's just say it's 1 penny. And my locked PTGC is, say, for example, 1 million. And so my percent of the locking pool is 0.00073. And my lock is a 10-year lock. So the estimated token earned on that would be 2 tokens, which is not very much. So, but if I increase the amount of the unlock and make it 1 billion tokens, so 1 billion tokens is unlocked. 300, that would mean 300 million PTGC is distributed to the other lockers. And my locked PTGC, I want to make this, instead of 1 million, I want to make it 100 million. Because I really kind of want to illustrate this, obviously. I have 100 million PTGC in a 10-year lock. It makes me 0.073% of the total locking pool. So this scenario would garner me 220,000 tokens worth $2,200 with PTGC at 1 penny.
Yeah, I think it's good for examples like this to use larger amounts, because when you use very, very small amounts, it obviously creates very, very small numbers. I don't know what a million PTGC is worth today.
$650.
$150.
$650.
650. Yeah, I would use like numbers kind of maybe 60 million, right? Like something worth more like $6,000, because with any system, and people need to remember this, and we're happy about any amount of value you can enter in with, try to change your life with that, right? Everyone's numbers are different. Like if you could turn $1,000 into $100,000, that could change tons of people's lives, where some people might want to turn $10,000 into $1 million, etc. Right? But for an example, I think it's better to use a little bit larger numbers, because if someone is very, very serious about using the system for passive income streams, etc., you need to understand, like in the real world, let's say property, right? Like to own a property, like what do you even need to come in with to own a property outright to earn decent APY? You're going to need to come in with like $500,000, right? You're not coming in with $1,000 and expecting like these crazy APYs on $1,000. It's irrelevant. And I'm not saying that we need $500,000 in, but the nice thing about crypto is you can come in and let your portfolio do the X's, and then you can earn off of what those X's turn into, which is super, super awesome. But, we have to also be realistic on our position size. If your position size is larger, you're going to earn more. If your position size is smaller, you're going to earn a little less.
Yes. I agree with you with using bigger numbers. Yeah. Unfortunately, the calculator was set for small numbers when we started this, but I adjusted it. So what I have now is estimated unlock, 1 billion tokens, PTGC at 10 cents. Your locked PTGC, $6,000 worth, is 10.5 million PTGC, and locked for 10 years would garner 100% of its share of the pool, and that would be $2,330 worth of tokens at obviously 10 cents. That means PTGC's got to be at 10 cents. But I think we're going there. And what this does for me, Zen, is it illustrates the value of locking, which I'm just going to say it out loud. I think locking needs to be done very deliberately. It's not an emergency. Take some time to think about it. You need to know what you're doing before you lock up tokens and take a chance on nuking 30%. But
Vanessa, do you by chance have a wallet in front of you that you have had locked for a while?
Yes. Yep. Give me one moment.
I'd be interested to see this, because on the staking page, it will tell you, I believe, how much you've earned from locking.
Yes, it does.
And then it'll tell you what you've earned from staking as well. And
yes.
Correct me if this is a 10-year lock that you have or a 1-year lock. But I am interested to see, because I won't lie, the locking rewards that I have received have been larger than I thought they would be, personally. Yeah. So that's a pleasant surprise. People unlock more than I actually thought they would. So I'd be interested to see, with your experiment wallet, what is the ratio, like how much locking rewards have you received? Let's say you've had this wallet for a year in locking compared to staking.
Yes. Okay. And I have it pulled up and I want to get to that. But first I want to explain that your reflections and staking rewards are valued at the price of PTGC today. Locking rewards are not. They're valued at they're valued based on token quantity. And that's why I really believe in the power of locking PTGC, because in the future, as price goes up, I anticipate 100x tokens coming into my wallet in locking penalties. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, it does. When people close the stakes, it's the same way as well. It's just a way smaller number.
Okay.
The 1% penalty when you close a stake. Yeah.
That is true. That is true. Okay. So I have my 100 million PTGC stake and lock pulled up, and it is a 10-year lock. I maxed it out. Now, to be perfectly honest, Zen, I didn't realize this until a few weeks ago, but back in the beginning, you and I were doing some of this number stuff on, I think we were doing it on a Saturday, like once a month. Do you remember that? Way in the beginning last spring.
What were we looking at?
We were looking at, we were using this 1 million PTGC stake, and we were just visiting on like once a month about data. I think we did it about 3 months in a row. But what I did at the time, which I wish that I had not done, was I recycled some of the value, the rewards from, I think, staking. I don't know if I touched the locking, but for sure the reflections, I recycled it back into the stake. So like the total staked is 1,025,000 right now. I wish I had left it alone so it was only 1 million. It would be easier to calculate, but it is what it is. So, but I just wanted to say that out loud, that I have done that. So it has kind of skewed the data a little bit, if you follow me. And you're probably going to be able to identify what was skewed more readily than myself. But the total TGC earned in this wallet is 33,000, earned from holding 15,000, earned from staking 12,000, earned from locking 7,000. And I'm rounding up to the nearest thousands.
So I'm not looking at your screen. Just so you know, the top 4 boxes or 6 boxes.
Yeah.
The bottom 3 is earned from holding, earned from staking, earned from locking.
Yes.
And this only counts if you claim it. It won't put anything there if you don't claim it.
Oh, okay.
So you can claim, and it will keep track for you what you've earned.
Okay. Oh man, thank you for saying that. I am totally going to do that.
So then you can now look and say, oh wow, I've earned. This is just an example. 10,000 PTGC from staking, and I've earned 5,000 PTGC from locking. Wow, that's really interesting. Like, that's 50%, right? So like I'm earning 50% of the rewards that I earn in staking just by locking. So now when I locked my PTGC, I'm actually earning an additional 50% APY in that area. So you can actually see all this stuff. And then we can actually say like, wow, so this is the benefit of locking, which the locking is kind of skewed, right? Because it's no guarantee, but you've had these wallets for like a year now.
Yeah.
So it's a good metric point. It wasn't the best metric point 9 months ago because we only had 3 months of data, but now we have a year's worth of data.
Okay. Well,
my only other question on locking rewards is on the staking page. It says claimable TGC earned from locking, and there's a number there. That's the separate claim that you can claim those rewards. Underneath, it does say, upon claiming your TGC, a portion may be sent to a debt address depending on your locking tier. Do you have information on what that disclosure means?
Yeah. So when you decide to lock, there is 10 different tiers you can get put into based on how long you lock. So if you lock from 90 days to 1 year, you're in tier 1. If you lock from 1 year to 2 years, you're in tier 2, all the way up to 10 years. If you're in tier 1, when you claim your rewards, you only actually receive 55% of your rewards. 45% of them goes to the dead address. If you're in tier 2, you get 60% of your rewards, 40% goes to the dead address, and it goes up in increments of 5%, all the way up to 100%. So, for an example, Banana has locks that are 10 years because when he claims, he wants to receive 100% of his locking rewards. So this was the system that we put in play to incentivize users to lock out longer. Because if there was no incentivization to lock out longer via more rewards, no one would obviously lock out longer. You have to pay people additional for doing so.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
and, every time
how the
those locking rewards, they're essentially burning somewhere between whatever you said, 45% to 0% of those rewards every time they claim those too, which is pretty good for the overall ecosystem.
Yeah, it's not like it goes into someone else's hands. It just goes straight to the dead address. So how the locking is set up, Nick, and I'm saying this because there's people listening and I want to go through the whole thing since this topic's up. You're in a pool with all the other lockers. And let's say someone has 1 billion and then someone has 1 million. And then there's a bunch of other people. If someone early end locks, they don't fulfill their time period, they lose 30% of their tokens that they had locked. That 30% gets divided up amongst everyone in the locking pool based on how many tokens they have locked. So that's the bigger pays better. The more you have locked, the more you make. But then we also wanted to make it to where longer pays better, right? So then that's when you claim you get put into a tier based on how long you promised to stay in the lock. And then if you're in the earlier tiers, like the 1 year, you're only going to receive 55% of those. 45% gets sent to the dead address. If you're in tier 10, you get 100%. That was our way of doing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then one more thing to clear up. So even no matter if I let it build up to 10,000 and claim it and say I'm in the shortest tier and lose 45%, or if I let the entire lock come to maturity and claim it, I still lose that 45%. This isn't a thing where if you let those build up until maturity, you don't get hit with that quote unquote penalty, if you will.
No, you will always get hit with that penalty. So if you when you lock, let's say you go into tier 1, you say, I'm going to be here for 1 year. Well, once you fulfill your 1 year, and this is where we kind of differ from Hex. In Hex, you have to close your stake right away or you get penalized. Where I didn't fully understand why we wanted to penalize people for closing their stake. I was like, I actually think it'd be good for no one to be penalized and they can remain in their stake forever. You can actually remain in that lock for 10 years, even though your commitment was only 1 year, but your rewards are always going to be in tier 1 because that's what you agreed to do. So you can be 5 years down the road and just still be sitting in tier 1 and you can claim every time you get a stack of rewards, but you're only going to be getting that 55%. You don't, as you sit in there longer, if you didn't agree to a higher tier, you don't go up tiers necessarily.
Yep, and I like that methodology a lot better. That's the one downfall I think with Hex, and Shillgates has been talking about it. It's like, if people forget about that stake, they shouldn't get penalized on that. But also, it's like you almost want people to forget about those stakes. And with you saying, if somebody doesn't have the courage to upgrade to a higher tier, they can still remain in the tier they're at, keep the locking rewards, stay locked up. This is something that like Floki does with their staking and their lock mechanism, and I think it works really well because it gets people to stay locked up, stay staking. And, they don't have to commit to another relock of a longer period of time. So it gives them some flexibility, but kind of locks them in that lower tier. So I like the decision making there, and I think it pays off well over the long term.
Yeah, because what I've noticed, and this isn't everyone, right? But what a lot of people, I think, do with Hex is they have their locking ladder, and when the stake comes due, they close it down, and a lot of people don't restake it because they fulfilled that time period. They have other ones coming out in the future. And then the problem is, if they don't restake it, a lot of the people who are really into T shares know that the other people who are staking are now printing their own inflation, but now this user is not printing his own inflation via the staking metrics of Hex. So it actually starts kind of pushing them out the door because they're like, oh, my funds aren't working for me. So if I'm not earning on these funds, I'm actually getting, what would the word be? Like, suppressed. Like, because of them not earning more of the supply, the other people earning more of the supply is actually decreasing their percentage of the circulating supply, right? So then they kind of then come to the conclusion, like, I should just get out now because there's more supply coming out in the future, and I'm not getting my share of that anymore. And the only way you get that share of it is by putting another time lock on your stuff.
Yeah, you kind of get that unwinding effect. And then, Richard Hart used to talk about, you can see the future and the future inflation and the future unlocks and everything as a positive thing. And if for blockchain sleuths, it is a positive thing. You can try to trade around that, make market decisions on that. But for the average Joe, and even really the average OG in crypto, you're not going to be tracking just Hex blockchain that closely. And I think the unlocking times and the force unlock, knowing those big people are going to unlock unless they're going to accrue penalties, can have a negative impact on market sentiment and put some FUD and some fear in the markets as well. Whether or not some of these big long time locks that are emptying, are they going to restake? Are they going to pull out and start slow selling? Are they going to fast sell? And it kind of puts that overhead pressure, the mental pressure on the market as well, which the way that PTGC is doing it and Floki is doing it doesn't do that, because people have the optionality to just stay in the same tier, not move their tokens, leave them there, forget about them, whatever, and keep earning passive income that way without having to make that decision to relock, which you stated in your data says doesn't always happen, or potentially sell on the open market because they're forced to unstake and put Hex back at the front of their mind, or in this case, PTGC. So I do agree with your analysis there.
Yeah, and again, that's like nothing even against Hex. I kind of look at them as two awesome products, just with a couple different features to them, because ultimately we wanted a couple different features. If it was just an exact copy, what would be the point, right? So I thought this was a good thing that was a thing that I felt could change and still also add a different type of value, and people would see that value, where I also see the Hex's side of that as well. But like, another part of it is the fact that our rewards are claimable at any time. So with Hex, some people actually will create shorter locks because they want the APY that lock is producing, because the APY is stuck within the lock for, it could be 10 years. But with our system, even like Banana did 10 years, right? But the APY he's receiving is actually accessible at any time. So it actually, I think, gives people confidence to push out longer, knowing that their main portion is pushed out long, but they can access the APY as time goes on and live off of that if their position is large enough, etc.
Yeah, and this isn't talking shit on Hex or me talking down on Hex. Hex kind of started all this. Hex is the movement. Also, it behooves us PTGC holders for Hex to succeed. A, there's a big overlap in holders there, but B, we have a massive liquidity pool with both EHEX and TX on PTGC and UFO. If Hex price goes up, that spurs price appreciation due to LP bonding of our token, plus it spurs volume, which creates deflation for PTGC and UFO. So, definitely want to see Hex succeed, and Hex is still one of the core components of PulseChain and Richard Hart's legacy for sure.
100%. So, Banana, do you happen to have the numbers of what you've earned in locking and staking and holding?
I don't have the wallet with me, so I can't claim, but I can probably get an estimate. I wish I knew the last time I claimed the locks. I don't think I've claimed any lock.
Are you looking at it where you like look at it through the Rabby like portal where you're like acting like it's yours, or how are you looking at this?
Yes, I'm looking through the Rabby.
Well, you shouldn't have to claim it. It should show you what you have ready to claim, and then you just have to add that to what you previously claimed in each section.
Okay, so in reflections, I'm adding it. I have earned.
Well, you shouldn't have to add anything in reflections because that drops right into your wallet. There's no claiming.
Oh, okay. True. All right. For staking, then, hold on a second. Oh, it's right there. 12,826 plus 11,707. I'm so glad I learned this because it was bothering me, like puzzling me. Okay, I've earned 24,600 for staking, 15,000 for holding.
Okay. And what'd you earn for locking? So just add up what it says earned from locking with what you still have pending claimable.
Okay. 65. Hold on. Plus 33. 10,000 for locking.
Okay. So, and then you said 15,000 for holding and 25,000 for staking.
I think so. I'm gonna re-add it just to be sure.
Okay, well, that's the numbers I remember. So what's cool about that is, like, I'll be honest, that those locking rewards are higher than with the design of this protocol I thought they would be. I didn't think that many people were going to early unlock, which is super cool for the believers who are locking in the system because you added a decent little chunk to your APY. It's just under what you received just for holding, right?
Yep.
It's pretty much 2/3 of what you've received just for holding.
I'm re-adding this up. Yeah, locking 10,000, staking 24,000, and then reflections would be 14. Reflections would be 15,000.
Yeah. So, because you remember how we were talking about how staking is 130% more than, so it's actually more.
Yeah.
And this is the best data that we can have. This is a year's worth of data right there. It's actually, gosh, it's over 150% more. It's like closer to 160.
Yeah, it's 161% more. But there is a little bit of fudge factor in there because I added to the stake the 1 million. So the total staked is 1,025,495 technically. So
that's not really a fudge factor. You just compounded it.
Yes.
Yeah, your holding rewards are compounding automatically.
Okay.
So why couldn't you compound your staking rewards?
True.
With every single transaction, your holding rewards compound.
Okay, so do you think I could claim all of this and add it to and stake it and not compromise the data?
Oh, I would, because it keeps track of all that for you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do that. Cool. Oh, good. Yeah, that is so it's more like 160%, 161% for staking versus holding.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm glad I've been staked. And I think I'm about to be glad I'm locked too.
Yeah, so if you're locked, if you include the locking metric in your staking, that puts you at 35,000, and 35,000 is pretty much like 210, I think, 210% more than holding. So if you're a locker, what you receive from locking and staking is 210% greater than holding.
Yeah, man. That is good data. You said 210%?
These are numbers I'm literally just running in my head. You can double check it, but yeah, I think that's somewhat close. Because 200% would be 30, because 15, right? So that would be 200%. And then you have another 5. All right. So yeah, no, it'd be like 230%.
Okay. Yeah. Good deal, man. I like that. Who wants to come up and make a comment? And it's 160% for extra for staking. Okay. I'm going to use this.
Yeah. No, that wallet, Banana, is the best wallet for you to use, in my opinion. That's a year's worth of data.
Yeah. Yep. And you cleared up some confusion because I have dropped that in the chat before, but I only used the boxes at the top. I didn't realize I needed to do some adding there. So if you're listening, like Shaka vibes, now we know why. It's good. I'm glad we brought it up. Man, oh man. Well, what else, man? You want to do some moon math?
Yeah, let's do some moon math real quick.
I mean, it's easy to forget about this moon math because you and I have seen it so much. But I always got to harken back to the first time I saw it when it took my breath away, And so for anybody that's new, get ready. That's what I'm saying. And sometimes we miss this. Sometimes we don't show the moon math, but it is impactful enough that we want everybody in the system to see it so that you understand where perhaps these Gray's currencies are going. So we will.
Yeah, real quick, I just got a message from someone listening. I just want to confirm to make sure listeners understand. That's not 230% APY. That's 230% more than you're holding APY.
There you go. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. Good idea. Okay. Moon math. So what do you want to do for an X factor? We're going to do the standard 5. Zen?
Yeah. Let's do a 50x for PulseChain.
Okay. And I need you to explain where we're getting the X factor. I mean, are you going back to the beginning of PTGC and comparing it to how much it has moved up against Pulse?
Not at all, actually. If you look at just what we've done since August 26th, we're actually up 11x since August. And that's just, what is that? 5 months. So in the last 5 months, our X factor against PulseChain has been 11x.
And that's just the last 5 months.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you go back to the beginning, it's gosh, it depends on where you want to pull from in the chart. You know, technically hundreds of X. When I say to people that I try to use realistic, really modest numbers, and they're still like blowing people's minds, like I seriously try to use modest numbers to blow people's mind. Like even when I started talking about the X factor before we even had this, the number I used to use was a 10x on PTGC and a 10x on PulseChain equals 100x. That was like the most basic one I could give.
Yep.
That was at a 5 mil market cap. So we've already done, gosh, you know, like 30x or whatever since then, or 25x since then. So PulseChain's done none. So in my in my thing, or in my X factor equation, where I said, yeah, like if PulseChain does a 10x and we do a 10x, that's PTGC doing 100x from here. Like we've already done a 25x. So to be honest, we keep hitting our end of the bargain so easily. It's just amazing, right? Like PulseChain's the thing that has been holding back our X factor currently. But it's also like the missing ingredient that really makes this thing explode. But any X we can do in the meantime is that much more impact that we have once the PulseChain X factor kicks in. Like for an example, and the cool thing is we're still so small, right? We're just still this bucket. And just with like a group of like honestly 20 guys just really working hard and educating people on the system, we can do 10x, 20x. Like there's no reasons why we can't. And for an example, if we 10x what we are today and against PulseChain compared to 0x, like let's say people just became complacent, right? Like, you know what, we've done tons of X's. Let's let PulseChain do its thing now. Well, yeah, okay, PulseChain does a 10x from here. Cool, that puts us at a 2 million market cap. But if we work hard and we get more X's, another 10x before PulseChain revalues a 10x, that puts us at a 20 million market cap, or 20 billion, sorry. 2 billion, 20 billion market cap. That's how powerful it is to do the X's against the blockchain. You know, 20 billion market cap obviously puts us in the same boat that the Trump token's at today. And when I talk about, because a lot of people think, you know, 200 million, right now where we're at, we're right under it. I'll use 200 million for the example. You know, some people are like, that's really good. Like, that's probably one of the better things here on PulseChain. It's like, yeah, that's correct. But, like, the goal is never to be in the top echelon of things here on PulseChain. We're never going to get real adoption on PulseChain if we're just looking at our small community and comparing ourselves to each other. What we want PTGC and UFO to be is with the top tokens in crypto. We want to be up there with Trump token, with SHIB, you know, the biggest names in the industry. And that's going to take us doing more X's over PulseChain, or PulseChain working with us. Like, why not both? Personally, I think the fact that we will have like 200 million in liquidity at these times are also going to help put us in this top echelon. The fact that we'll have a massive buy and burn happening every day. Like, I don't really know of a fiat transaction token that's like up in that caliber. So I think that's like a weird niche that we have, because no one's seen one like succeed like we have been currently doing. So that kind of makes us different. Along with the fiat transactions, literally just one piece of like 10 pieces to our formula. A lot of people get distracted with the fiat transaction. They put their blinders on because of it, but you have to like open up your eyes and be like, okay, this is just one piece of the formula. That's like so black and white, because that's like me saying like, oh, Trump token won't do good because it's a non-fiat transaction token, zero fee. And we've seen thousands of those fail every single day, right? It's like, well, no, that's not the case. Like, it can be successful 100% with the right community, the right branding, the right onboarding, the right marketing, systems in place, utility. just looking only at the fee on transaction is just very, very blinders on. But what it does set up for us is if we can chug our way up to some of this upper echelon of tokens and compete with them, we will be pretty much the only one in that category at those levels. And we want to be competing with the big dogs, ultimately. Like, the goal isn't to be the biggest token or one of the biggest tokens on PulseChain. The goal is to be one of the biggest tokens on blockchain.
Okay. Yes. And you are becoming more vocal about that recently, and I think I know what that means.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to be the most fit kid at fat camp. You want to be the most fit kid in general. That's kind of how I look at things in my
Yes. Well said, Nick. Okay, let's do an X factor of 50. And then what I did, Zen, is I put in Pulse at 0.00305, which is a 100x from the bottom of Pulse. And I'm going to calculate. I haven't looked at it yet. I got to redo it. Hold on a second. 0. Oops. I lost. I think. Did I say 0.00305? I think I did. Calculate. That would mean a 2850x potential for PTGC, which is $1.61. Is that what you expected, Zen?
How many X's is that the blockchain doing? You said is that like a 50x from here?
Hold on. Give me a second. I'm going to recalculate it and make sure I got it right. 100 times 0.003305. Yeah, very close. Let me just adjust it real quick.
Something seems wrong. That's why I'm asking.
Sure. 50 X factor of 50, and Pulse does a 100x from the bottom, putting it at 0.0033.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize you're doing an X factor of 50.
What X factor do you want to do?
No, that's fine. I just didn't hear that part. I thought we were on 5 still.
Okay, here's 50. $1.74 PTGC.
Yeah. Yeah, because all you're doing is multiplying the 50x by the 50x ultimately.
Yes. Well, the 50x times the 100x, because that's 100x.
Well, you're doing 100x from the bottom, but we're roughly 100% up from the bottom. A little less.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's try the standard 5 X factor of 5. That'd still be a 17-cent PTGC or 308x from here. Wow. Yeah, man. Is there any other calculations that you want to do on the Moon Maths tab?
I'm good. If someone else has some numbers they want us to run for them, if they have any ideas of what they hope or wish or want PulseChain to do, we can plug that in for you, and then obviously we can PTGC an X factor like a 5 or a 10 or whatever to show you guys like what PTGC can do with a successful PulseChain.
I'm going to do a crazy 1000x. We'll use a 2x X factor of 2 and a 1000x PulseChain from where it is now. Let's see what we get. A 2000x on PTGC or $1.13.
Yeah, there's multiple different ways to get to the same destination.
Yeah.
PulseChain could pull more weight than we expected, or we need to pull more weight than we expected. But
currently pulling weight just fine. We can just keep doing that. It's nice because we're just educating our community and working in a solid direction every single day.
Yes. And this is all based on Pulse doing a number of X's. But the other pairs can also cause a similar stimulus, right, Zen? Like a massive PDI move or a hex move, PulseX, any of the big tokens can have a similar effect.
Really what we're talking about is what we're going to get is an average of our liquidity pools based on their size. So if PulseChain does 100x and Hex does a 200x and PulseX does a 200x and Inc does a 50x, like what we're going to get based on their sizes, we get the mean, we get the average of all those, and that's the X multiplier that we actually get to receive. Like for an example, like if Hex did 1,000x, this is just a drastic example, but then PLS did 100x, and we had the same amount of liquidity of each, and those were our only two pairs, we would get the average of those two.
Okay.
The mean of those two.
Okay. That
so
makes sense.
when we're talking about this X factor, we're using specific LP pairs, which that would work if we only had one LP pair, but we have 20. So what we get is our X factor is actually those all averaged up to each other, right? Like if PDI goes on a huge run tomorrow, let's say it runs up 50x, but all of the RH tickers don't do anything, well, we're not getting that 50x because the PDI pair is only one leg of our web. Let's say that's 20% of our web. Well, then it would constantly have to go and fix the other pairs, and we would get an average. You know, we could end up more like with a 5x from that situation, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, IOCAX, when would the 50x possibly be, in your opinion? 2, 3, 4 years? We have no way of knowing. We have no way of knowing.
Is this a 50x for PulseChain or PDI? I think it's in the cards for it to happen this cycle. I don't know how high PulseChain or PDI or we are actually going in general. I know mechanically how we can get there. And that's kind of what we've been operating off of, is the mechanics of our system to do these X's against the blockchain. But I think it's in the cards for it to honestly happen in this year. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But if it doesn't happen this year, my guess would be it doesn't seriously happen then 4 years later, because I do believe in a 4-year cycle. So I think this year we're going to see where this ecosystem can go. And then there will be a consolidation period on the markets. I don't think it's going to be as drastic as they used to be due to the mainstream adoption that we're getting. But the nice thing about when it consolidates, there's still volume and there's still volatility in the bear market. So throughout that 2-3 year period, as it trickles down or up, we're going to just be buying and burning our supply, paying out APY, and becoming a stronger, more sustainable system. And we've actually shown already we can do X's without even the blockchain going up. Yeah. So I don't see a reason why we can't continue to trend up as long as everything around us isn't dropping drastically, because mechanically we are very strong and we can outperform the market. In a bear market, though, things do tend to all get dragged down together. We aren't fighting PulseChain in a negative direction right now. It's just stagnant. But let's say PulseChain runs up 50x sometime in this next year, and then it retraces 50%. Well, where does that land us? That lands us at like a 25x, right? Well, at that floor level, we can build at that floor level and start doing X's against that next floor level. A lot of people are very, very tuned into this cycle and what crypto is going to do for them this cycle.
Yeah.
This product has been designed to not be a single cycle system. I didn't want to create a single cycle system. The goal is to create a system or an asset that's multiple cycle. Really, the idea of it is to be around as long as PulseChain's around, because a lot of people in crypto are forced to go and find the new thing, right? Like they have to find the new thing. And why do they have to find the new thing? It's because they've actually given up their sustainable assets like Bitcoin too early. So now they're actually forced to find the next 50x. But the thing is, if they just stayed in Bitcoin, when they got in Bitcoin, every time Bitcoin does like a 2x, it's actually doing hundreds of x's for them because their entry point is different than your entry point. So that's kind of the idea here is everyone who's getting in now, if they actually believe in the system for long term, they could actually keep a portion of their portfolio. Yeah, go out and try to find the next thing. But as this becomes more successful over the years, right, as long as PulseChain exists, like they don't have to find the next thing. They have a sustainable system right here that does X's, pays APY, is deflationary, is scarce, hits all the boxes that we're trying to check and we're trying to find, and has the liquidity to back it. This was kind of part of the problem is with Bitcoin, their constant products were coming out saying, hey, trade your Bitcoin for this, this is going to give you more gains. But the truth is, a lot of those users were just better off just holding the Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All these other assets, like a lot of them, were just trying to take advantage of you getting your Bitcoin into their hands because they want your Bitcoin, right? This is the same thing I see with PulseChain Hex. Anything that's sustainable and has longevity, I look at it as like a kingdom, right? You have your kingdom, you built all this wealth, your community is thriving. Plenty of food, well, then what has to happen is people want to get into those kingdoms' walls and say, hey, guys, there's this other awesome kingdom over here. And they're like, oh, by the way, grab some of your gold and your food and bring it over here to this kingdom. And really they go over to that other kingdom and it's just empty. And they're like, oh, thanks for all your gold and food. Now kick rocks, right? This is the basic example of literally what just happens over and over and over again. They're promising like, hey, this kingdom's awesome over here. And once you get into the walls, there's nothing there. They just told you what you wanted to hear so they could get at your value that you created with your previous ecosystem. It's really sad, to be honest, but this is how cutthroat this industry really is.
Yeah. And there is a very well-known streamer that, okay, we're talking about the X's. I'm switching the topic in a sense to the number of X's that Pulse can do. And that very well-known streamer, did he say Pulse needs to 1,000X by June, or was it 10,000X and he's quitting YouTube? Do you remember that? I don't remember the details, but it was something like that. It was like Pulse is going to...
I believe you're talking about B Roots, but...
yes, but I
think he said he's quitting YouTube either way. But,
I think
but
so.
he believes PulseChain is going to do 1,000x or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 1,000x. It was like June or July. So who knows? Maybe he's going to have to quit YouTube. But I hope not.
He said he was quitting either way. That's what I'm saying. Is I don't think it mattered if it did what he predicted or didn't do what he predicted. He said that that's kind of the time where he's stopping doing his YouTube and just enjoy his life.
Yep. He's made that clear that he is not going to be around forever. Like after this bull run, he's going to disappear.
Yeah, well, the environment's just getting, for literally the example I just gave, that it's getting more and more like that every single year. That's one reason why I wanted to create a system where people didn't feel like they had to go chase whatever the next thing is, because the truth is usually that next thing that they're getting tricked into is just a shiny object, and then when they get there, it's a rock painted with gold spray paint. It's not gold, right? And they're sadly giving up the things that actually have real value for these things. That they're giving up the gold nugget that they have, maybe smaller, and they're seeing this guy holding like, hey, look at how big this gold nugget is. You can trade that little gold nugget for this huge one. You're like, wow, that's an awesome move. Well, it's the ultimate snake oil salesman technique, because then they like, okay, let me sell my gold nugget. I'm going to go over here and get this gold nugget. And they get it and they put it in their hands like, oh my God, this is just a big rock spray painted in gold. And now this person that sold it to me extracted my value and I'm left with this rock, right? And this is happening more and more and more and more because people know that there's value here and they're going to go after the things that have value. So I wanted to create a system where you don't have to go and search out the next value system, because this has actually mechanics put in play to continue to go up. The supply is constantly decreasing, so you don't have to worry about more supply coming out in the future. It's actually less and less and less. You're getting paid more of the token. So APY wise, you don't even need to tap into your initial amount of tokens. You can literally just cash out what you receive on a monthly basis, weekly basis. And on top of that, when you do that, you're still earning more APY every single day based on percentage of the pool, because the supply is decreasing. So it's not like you're even getting less of the circulating or the payout APY. You're actually getting more. And if a lot of people understand this system and they all hold up the price together, I like the analogy. It's the fishing hole, right? We're a community. We're all working together as a community, and we have like this fishing hole with plenty of fish. As long as we're all going in there and just putting our rod in and taking enough fish out for the day, we're all going to eat for a lifetime. It's usually what happens due to human nature is someone, while everyone's sleeping, goes into that fishing hole and grabs tons of fish and then runs away to a different community. And they're like, look at all this fish I have now, guys. Like, what can you do for me? And they're like, oh, well, we're just going to take your fish, and now you're left with no community and no fish. No. This happens over and over again. So, I think this happens, and this is what has actually created a bad rap for crypto, because people come in with their value thinking they're going to make money on it, and then ultimately their value just gets taken from them. And I think our product is super unique to where we can kind of change that and give users the ability to make X's, right? They came here for X's, but then also give them a lot of reasons to where they can stay for the long term as well.
Sure. Okay. There are 2 questions in the chat that I want to get to, and then we'll segue over to the reflections calculator. Polygon asks, what happens if, hypothetically, there's no maintaining the PTGC website in 10 years? Are long-term lock investments still safe? In answer to your question, yes, they are safe. The PulseTGC.com is merely a front end for and you can correct me on all this, Zen. It's how you interact with the blockchain. Your locks are on the Pulse network. PulseTGC.com is merely it's called a decentralized application, or a D app. And so, yes, your investments are safe on the network on like thousands of different nodes. Theoretically impossible to shut down. If the website disappeared, there are ways, and there are going to be probably multiple front ends built for this little ecosystem. And there's always a way to, I don't know how to do it, but if there were no front end, there is a way to to access the network from your own computer at home. Am I basically correct on all of that, Zen?
Yeah. Anyone could actually interact with the code via the blockchain. Our website is just a UI for normal users to interact with the blockchain.
Yes.
Because most normal users don't know how to interact with the blockchain. So what we're offering is just a UI to make it more simple for users. Obviously, if I died and the website went down whatsoever, everyone could still interact with the blockchain and access their rewards. They could claim their locks, close their locks, buy and sell the token as they please. And also, I just want to bring up, there's actually another UI out there made by Crypto Kong that's a backup that has nothing to even do with me. And then that doesn't even stop there. Anyone can actually create a UI to interact with the code on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
It really has nothing to do with our website. It's just that's the first one built that obviously has been running for the last year and a half. But anyone can build a website. Anyone can interact with the code on the blockchain.
Yeah. And that other UI is on lookintoptgc.com. Just like, Hex has multiple UIs, multiple ways you can look at your Hex stakes and, interact with the blockchain. Ayak asks, since the beginning of PTGC, how many X's did we do? And then we can use those same general numbers to average those for the next similar time frames, right?
Kinda. It's hard because it's easier to do X's when things are small. I like to use the analogy. It's the pool compared to the bucket, right? And it's all dependent on how much water you have flowing in. But let's say it's the same amount of water. It's a hose. You turn on a hose. But when you're small, like we are right now, you're a bucket. You put the hose in and that bucket fills up in minutes, right? And that water level rising is like doing X's. As if that bucket was super tall, it could just keep rising and rising and rising. And those are the token doing X's. But if you have a wider volume, you're a bigger project. Let's say you're a pool instead of a bucket. Well, you'll throw that hose in there and it actually takes a couple days to fill it up instead of minutes, right? So if you measure from the bottom, it kind of is not, you can't just scale it linearly like that. There's other things involved though, right? Like now that we're bigger, we have more people educating other people on the system and telling friends. And some people actually think it multiplies out even stronger. I think it's, it's like a squared event. I don't personally really think it's a squared event. I think it does become harder. I think everything has an S curve. So you have your flat to where you're trying to onboard, and then you'll have a ramp up period where it's like, wow, this is the perfect middle ground. And then it kind of starts getting stagnant near the top, and it can still go up. It's just not as steep. Richard Hart talks about this all the time, that he believes like Bitcoin is near the top of its S curve. He believes Hex is at even before the steep part of the S curve. So it really just depends. Everyone has its own S curve and own timeline for its own S curve based on its adoption. We don't know where we are. You can just take educated guesses on where you are. It just depends on how sustainable your project is and how long it's going to ask and when that S curve steepest point is. And obviously, that's going to be the best time.
Okay. Let's look at some reflections. For PTGC, we're going to use the demo wallet. And what this simulator is going to do is show us the reflections only of what this wallet would earn at certain volume levels. So we are going to, what kind of volume do you want to use, Zen? Something that we think could happen in the next year.
Let's just use the 5 mil number. That's like roughly a 5x or a 10x from here.
Okay. Yes, that is about a 10x from here. Yes. Okay. So, and I think that's modest. I like to be modest. We start from modest and then go crazy, but then you have both data points to go from. So that would mean a 15% APY. I like that.
Just for holding?
Yeah, just for holding.
So I want to bring this up because we literally just ran these.
Yes. So
what we're receiving if you're staked and locked is 200% more than that. So actually what your APY would be if you're staked and locked is around
45%. Yes. Wow. Okay. I love it, man. We're like learning as a community, I'm going to use that. Dude, that's a triple. That's a triple of that APY right there for staking and locking. It's powerful.
Yeah. And then you have to realize, like, some people aren't in it for the APY; they're just in it for the exits, right? And they might not take and lock, and that's fine. There's definitely a few ways to play this game, but some people really do see the longevity of this system, and they care about the APY because they never want to touch their initial, right? Which then they might go that step further to stake and lock, and that's how the system rewards them for doing so.
Yeah. Okay, so this wallet address that I plugged in, that he's now earning 45% APY, not 15%, because 15% on his reflections, and then about an additional 30% for staking and locking rewards that we have the data for the previous year. At $5 million in network transaction volume on PTGC, he holds a sharp position of 1.22 billion PTGC. Congratulations. Let's see, his yearly yield would be $101,000, but again, that's reflections only. We need to triple that to include staking and locking. So $303,000 in a year for that 1.22 billion PTGC. Let's look at some smaller positions. Something more attainable for many of us. Dolphin position. Very respectable position in my opinion. I think that the dolphins and the squids, all relative to however, how many of these positions you have, and relative to your lifestyle and all of that. But I think some of these dolphin, squid, maybe even turtle positions are going to crush it. It's all relative. PTGC going to crush it this bull run. So a dolphin position is $17,000 worth of PTGC, and it would earn $2,500 a year in reflections. Triple that, $7,500 in a year. So $7,500 return on a $17,000 bag at $5 million in volume. Now let's kick it up to, let's go from 5 to 50. Let's just go for the gusto. Calculate. Same wallet. There would be a 450% annual return. His yearly yield is going to be, in reflection, staking, and locking, $3 million. Wow. All right, let's look at the dolphins and squids. I always like to highlight this. This is a $17,000 bag of PTGC. Gets you one dolphin position. Yearly would be $75,000, reflection, staking, and locking. So way more than double the value of the bag in yield in a year's time at $50 million in volume. Did we get all that right, Zen? Does it sound correct?
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Okay. Let's look at UFO. This is a different wallet, but I do use the demo wallets just so I can maintain familiarity. We'll do the same thing. We'll go from $5 million in volume to 50 million. This is another shark wallet. Yearly yield is $44,000 at $5 million in volume. $44,000. And you can't stake UFO, you can LP it. But this number here is reflections only. This is only counting reflections. And if you have LP'd UFO, it's not earning reflections, you're earning LP rewards, and there is no calculator for that. Let's look at some of the smaller positions. Well, honestly, a dolphin right now is only $5,000. So a shark is $53,000. Let's look at the dolphin. $5,000 bag at $5 million in volume would earn $3,500 in a year.
and you can do the math on the other positions. Let's make it $50 million. And it's going to be a 10x, obviously. But let's calculate. $50 million in volume a year. This gentleman is going to earn $438,000 in yield. And a dolphin position, which costs $5,000 today, would earn $35,000 in yield, a 7x on yield. Yeah, man. I'd love to see. I'd be happy to see $5 million in volume consistently for a year. What do you think we're going to do, man?
Yeah, I'm excited to see that too. One thing I want to bring up on $5 million in volume a year is, the APY increases for the users, but I want people to also realize what also increases is the buy and burns.
Oh, yeah.
At $5 million a year, and this example is, if this isn't including UFO, but let's just say the Dow is buying and burning with the funds, that would be $125,000 a day in buy and burns for PTGC. If UFO also was buying and burning, which it does, and let's say it had that same amount of volume on it, that would be an additional $50,000. So it'd be $175,000 of buy and burns happening a day for PTGC. This is the thing that I don't think people realize is going to happen. Yeah, the APY will be nice, but the fact that we have, in a way, our own God will that's written in code, buying and burning our supply every single day that will never sell, getting sent to the dead address, is going to be very, very unique to our system.
Yep, and you guys also have other fire tokens and other projects that have implemented buying and burning PTGC into their economics too. So those will be much smaller scale, but those are also always running in the background, which is pretty powerful. And anybody who force unstakes, as people claim those lock rewards, a percentage of that, like we discussed earlier, gets sent to the dead address as well. So that adds up over time, adds up quickly as well.
100%. It's just, there's a bunch of different legs out there just adding to that buy and burn. And it's big or small, happening every single day.
Yep. I've been taking notes.
I think the banana's getting FOMO over there. He's about to make some new locks.
Well, one of the big things we were talking about, Nick, I don't know if you were on the space. It was either Monday or last Saturday. We were talking about how, a lot of people bring up the God will in Hex and what that God will did for the Hex community. And the big day that he purchased, he spent roughly $2 million on Hex, and obviously has never sold it. But when you think about that, that was a huge thing for Hex. But with the numbers that we were just running, we would have $2 million of bought and burn at the 5 mil daily volume within 15 days. But then you don't need to hope that he comes back. He will come back the next day and buy again and burn it. And the next day he'll come back and buy and burn it again. Forever. Systems that rely on non-human interaction is where crypto is meant to be. I love the fact that we have our own type of whale, just, it's the dead address, the buy and burn, acting in our behalf every single day. Some days small, but some days good. And as the blockchain succeeds and as we succeed, it will increase with us. So.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Zen, Is it time for you to head out to pickleball?
Yeah, I'm not going to be pickleballing today. I'm actually a little sick, so I'm just going to be resting up today. But
Oh, okay. That's different.
Yeah.
I'm going to play pickleball today, this afternoon after work.
Nice.
I want to get
Hey,
good.
but,
Go ahead.
hey, I was gonna say on the moon math for UFO, you were saying you couldn't calculate the yield for the LP for UFO, but theoretically, wouldn't you just be able to multiply it by 3 because it's getting 3% versus the 1%, and it's based off the shares?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing is UFO is the LP rewards are completely based off UFO shares, not token holdings. So what we would have to do, and I think it's in the process, is we have to figure out how many UFO shares are circulating, and then what your portion of that circulating UFO shares are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. All right, cool.
Yeah, so since it's not capped and decreasing, actually the UFO shares are increasing. That's one of the reasons why it was, somewhat important to closing theirs down. It's just there's a lot of moving parts to it. Like there's constant new ones being opened, constant old ones being closed. If no one's closing them and people are just opening them, UFO shares are growing or increasing, but they should also be adding to the volume due to them adding more liquidity web liquidity. So that one is taking a little bit longer to actually figure out.
I'm really interested in that metric. I'm excited. And I hope he puts that on the looking at PTGC.com site. I don't know why he wouldn't. So, but that'll be a good one. That'll be really good. Lemonade asked, what was the buy and burn in a year if there's a $5 million in volume and average?
If the DAO is participating, more recently the DAO has been doing LP ads and burns. Like just today, the DAO with PulseX did PTGC PulseX $40,000 of LP and then sent that to the debt address. So, but we do plan on the DAO switching to buy and burns here in the future once PulseChain isn't so cheap and PulseX and all these things are so cheap. But for an example, if the DAO is participating in the buy and burn, UFO is at 5 mil of volume, PTGC is at 5 mil in volume, that would equal $63 million of buy and burns in a year.
Wow.
Yeah, when you really think about what that will do, it becomes pretty mind-blowing. Obviously, that's if our volume gets to this 5 mil range.
Yeah.
But also, our volume could go past 5 mil. We could get it to 10 mil. It depends on PulseChain's success as well. But
we've already seen over $1 million in volume back in December. So we'll head back there and exceed that. We should. Are there any other questions? I'll be having an AMA tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific. If you're new and want to jump in, learn how this system works, it'll be right here on my YouTube channel. Jump in and ask your questions. I'll run through both PTGC and UFO and get you guys up to speed. We'll talk about the staking and the reflections and the locking. And I'm going to use my new calculator too to highlight the power of locking.
I did just bring up someone real quick if he has a quick question.
Hey, how's it going? Is it all right if I ask a couple random questions here?
No, you're all good. That's what we hold these for. Thank you for coming up.
No, first of all, thank you for creating a protocol and hosting these. It's been a great year. I'm happy to be here. I was just curious of a few things. on any given day, like what percentage of the buys actually come from the ARB bots versus humans on average?
It varies depending on the day. Obviously, if it's a day that we're having a lot of natural human interaction, it's going to lean more towards the human side. But if it's a day where there isn't much human interaction, but we have a very volatile day as far as, like, let's say, for an example, PDI goes up 20% and RH tickers don't do anything, right? Like, that triggers the market makers instantly. Like, that's where that value is generated from. So you can't just say, like, this is exactly the number, because literally every day is different depending on the human interaction size, the market reaction size, and just the natural volatility of the things. But I would definitely say that the market makers generate more than 50% of our volume.
Oh, wow.
At times, I think it's even greater than that. Like, on the days that, like, more recently, everything's kind of been chugging up and down together, and we've been having a lot of natural human interaction with our system. So more recently, I think it's been more on the human interaction side. But when PDI was doing some really big volatile shifts, or like a few months ago, like Hex was going on a weird rip, but the rest of the RH tickers are kind of sitting behind, or like we've even seen it where PulseX has gone on a rip, the rest have kind of sat behind. When those kind of things happen, that is like our golden ticket, is when a couple of the assets move up rapidly and then others sit down, because then that creates the market making situation, and then we generate value off of that. But when they kind of move up and down together due to they're paired together, we don't make as much off of those situations, just due to they're not market making opportunities aren't coming up as often.
Right. Okay. No, thanks for that explanation. And then I know you don't have a liquidity pool with kind of just USD, but if folks do want to take profit into USD, like through PulseX, does that just kind of give you the best pricing to do that, rather than actually picking, like, swapping into Pulse and then swapping from Pulse to USD, for example? Like, is it set up in PulseX that I can actually get pricing or pull from different liquidity pools? Like, say a whale wanted to sell $100,000 or something like that. Like, that's going to have a huge impact, big slippage on any of the pools. Does it actually take part of it from this pool, part of it from that pool, to minimize the slippage?
So I assume you're talking about USDC, right? Not
USDC or USDT, DAI, whatever, like just stablecoin.
Yeah. So the auto router on PulseX has been a lot better lately. A year ago, when PTGC came out, it was god awful, and I would tell you need to just do it manually, like go from PTGC to Pulse and then to USDC. It seems to be working now. You would have to check for yourself, but it seems to be actually pulling from multiple liquidity pools now, and routing it for you and giving you the best deal.
Okay. And just the last question I had, I noticed, and tell me if I'm wrong here, I was just looking at the different pools. It seems like the thickest pools are actually with UFO, 808, Liquid, and Burn. Is there kind of like a reason for that, or is that like where most of the ARB activity is? And is there like a plan maybe going forward to maybe try to like get the Pulse pool to be the main one that's focused on that just in case you do need to like take more of that whale pressure going forward as they start to sell?
Yeah, 100% the plan is to get the RH ticker pools as big as possible. So we haven't actually been adding to any of those pools, or I think that the UFO pool is added by the community because they're looking to get the PLS rewards via the farm. But all of those amplifier pools, none of those have actually been added to since the amplifiers were created. The reason they're actually somewhat large now is just due to the fact that they have outperformed all of the RH tickers. I like to kind of give the example of, it's called the alpha pool is what I call it. And the alpha pool will become your biggest pool because it's the token that you're paired with that's gone up the most. So you could create a completely level amount of liquidity pools, and the token that you're paired with that is that best performer will naturally actually become the largest liquidity pool you have, which then it will have the most control or most say over your token, because the larger the liquidity pool is, the more it will drag your token up and down with it because it's more of the share. And your least performing pool will actually start to go towards the bottom because it's not increasing with the things around it. Naturally, what our system's been doing is it's been trying to load up as much as the RH tickers as possible, because the RH tickers actually haven't been going up with it. So they've been naturally becoming the non-alpha pools because they're the least performing tokens currently. I do think this is kind of going to change, because once PulseChain starts working with us instead of against us, these pools will actually naturally grow due to the other side of the pair just increasing. So if PulseChain does a 2x, well, that liquidity does a 2x, right? Well, the thing is like the amplifiers, they're up like hundreds of X's. So even though the initial pools were very small, they've actually grown to somewhat large amounts, right? So point in case, yes, we are working on getting all of the RH tickers to be our biggest pools is what we'd hope for, just due to the fact that those have the most liquidity for exit and market making purposes. They also have the most ARB-bot activity, so we want them to be the biggest for that reason as well.
Great, thanks for that explanation.
That's also like PDI's pool, right? With UFO, and it might not be this way right now, but even with PTGC and Teddy Bear and stuff like that, those pools were actually made somewhat similar sizes, or even a little bit less than the RH ticker pools in the beginning. But those, since we've created them, have gone up like 20x, right? So that's why those actually are so big in our liquidity pool web. Not because we've been really adding to them, because they've actually become the better performing LP pools that we have. And the better performing LP pools naturally will become the biggest LP pools due to them increasing.
Makes sense. No, I appreciate it. That's all I've got.
Yeah, in a normal world, that would be best case scenario, right? But then like our sub world where we want big RH tickers because we believe in what they'll be in the future, not on their past performance. If we had no hope of what they would be in the future, you would look at the RH tickers and be like, well, those were your worst pairs, right? Because they performed absolutely nothing. But they also have all the liquidity. They have the most market maker interaction. And we also believe they'll be highly successful in the future as well. So that's why we focus on keep adding to those as we can.
Yeah, I guess my one, I don't want to call it a concern, but thought was just like, if through that auto router that it can't take multiple pools, like there are obviously some pretty big wallets in that top 20 or 30 that like could make a pretty big dent. And even like 100K or something like that, which is still a big number, but a sell like that, you know, still has some pretty big slippage on there. But if that can actually take, so that's why I thought, is it best to have the Pulse pool, for example, that's quite a bit thicker than anything else. But if it can take from like multiple pools, then maybe it's not as big of an impact.
Yeah, it's actually, my answer is probably going to be surprising for you. But if someone was to take a big sell, I would actually prefer, and this is like me greedily speaking for the protocol's best interest, not for the user's best interest. So, you know, just keep that in mind. But I would prefer them to not get auto routed through all our pools, because I rather them hit one pool with huge impact, because then market makers will need to come in and fix that huge impact, which then we get to double dip on the fees, actually kind of like triple dip on the fees, which is good for our value generating system. But for user purposes, yeah, it would be best for them to spread out amongst multiple pools for their best price. But for the best part of the system, I would actually
I wouldn't mind if they accidentally hit one of the pools mainly, because then the market makers would have to fix the price, and when the market makers fix the price, we make money off of that and value off of that. So that's good for our ecosystem.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Appreciate it.
But yeah, with the 100K sales, like just this morning, I don't know if people saw that. Someone sold 70K into PTGC, drained their whole bag. And the thing is, the system has seen stuff like this for the last year and a half. This isn't new things to us. It's just our system actually has the mechanics in play to take those people and buy them out of their positions and move on without them.
Is there anybody else with their hand up?
No, no one else has their hand up.
No more questions on YouTube.
All right. Yeah, if no one has any other questions, I'd say that's probably a pretty good point to shut it down.
Okay. Sounds good to me. This has been a profitable space for me. I got some great notes. It's always nice to visit with you, Zen, and the community as well. We had some good questions come in on YouTube. Appreciate you guys being here on YouTube and the spaces. This is of all the we have 6 events every week, community events, 2 spaces, 2 voice chats, and 2 AMAs. This Saturday is my favorite, probably because it's in the morning and I've had my coffee. I love Saturday spaces. We missed Mando being here, though. If you're listening, Mando, you were missed. Well, Zen, speaking of missing, you're gonna miss your pickleball today. I get to play, and I'm practicing, man. You know what I'm practicing for?
Try to take me down.
That's right. You and I are gonna play at some point, and I want to give you a run for your money, man.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I get your wife going too, and then once my wife gives birth, I'll get her playing again too. We'll play doubles.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be playing. So it's my wife's birthday today, and so taking her to pickleball, and then we're gonna go out to eat.
That's a fun day.
Yeah, we're both.
It sounds like something I want to do on my birthday.
There you go. Well, you'll be healed up by the end of August, man.
Banana's a catch.
What do you
That's
mean?
how I would want to be winded.
What's that?
I was saying banana's a catch. That's how I would be wanting to be wined and dined on my birthday. I'm gonna tell my wife I'm gonna go hang out with Banana on my birthday.
Oh, those would be fighting words, man.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna just relax today, just because I'm not feeling too good. But thanks for coming on the space, Banana, and co-hosting with me. It means the world.
Absolutely. You're welcome, man. I hope you get better soon, and I guess we'll be chatting on Monday. Spaces at 5:30 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
Guys.
Nick Hellman, thanks for coming up. Dan
Yes.
Crypto and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Jorda Vic. Jorda Vic.
Yeah, good enough. Jordovich.
Okay. Thanks for coming up and asking the questions.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
Yeah.
Talk to you.
All right, see you guys.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, wasn't that fun? Wasn't that fun? It always is. So fun. And I do appreciate you guys being on YouTube. The questions were excellent. And I hope that, who was it? Polygon. I hope you got your I hope you saw my notes about locking. Guys, if you haven't locked and if you haven't locked yet and you're thinking about it and you haven't jumped into my AMA, jump into my AMA because locking is serious. And I have some good notes, like don't lock up a big old bag unless you want to. Don't lock a big old bag when you can break it up into some smaller bags. And that way, if you are think you might be tempted to EEL, emergency unlock, then you're paying less than a 30% penalty on your entire bag. So that's one point I would bring on my AMA, and I will be on AMA tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific. If you guys want to jump in, please do. Thank you, everybody, for being here. There are some new comments. Good PM, Prairie. Okay, thanks very well. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Appreciate you all. See you on the next one. Yes, and the stream.